Well, hey there. Welcome back to another episode of How to Paint Like a Feminist. If this is your first time joining us, we cordially like to invite you to pull up a chair, and while you're at it this time, bring your kids along before those Jabba the Hutt-looking monstrosities on the left trying to abort those little bastards too. So before we get started, we want to first make sure that we coat our canvas with a nice thick coat of liquid white privilege, because apparently that's still needed this day and age. Because after all, when you have people out there saying that by virtue of your skin you're getting ahead of the game, that means you have privilege. That's why most minorities have a better chance of getting into college and certain select jobs than white people do. Guess you could call that minority privilege. Two can play at that game. So let's go ahead and run our colors across the bottom of the screen. We're going to go with abortion red, BLM black, SCOTUS aqua green, and cowardly Republican yellow. Oh yeah, we're going every direction on this one. Call me John by Ross. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take our abortion red, and we're gonna put a nice thick coat of this all over the canvas. There we go, just smear that abortion red blood all around here. And of course, as you know, liberals are sky screaming and the pronoun people are melting down out there. But you know, I kind of take a different turn than most Republicans do when it comes to abortions. I believe we should legalize them for the left and make them illegal for the right, because in a sense, eventually, the way the trans community is growing and people are turning gay left and right, the left is just going to breed itself out and the right will just overpopulate, and before we know, this liberal problem fixes itself. What's the big issue? They want to murder each other? Let them. They're already doing big blue cities. Oh, that's the black people. We don't talk about that. Happy Pride Month. See, I just deflected. You don't know what to be mad about now, do you? Hang tight. We got a lot more coming for you. So the left is melting down right now because essentially they're thinking that all their abortions and baby murdering is going to be outlawed, and that's actually not the case. What happened was the SCOTUS said, hey, it's up to the states. And you know how they did this? Through a democratic process. But of course, just like the filibuster, just like the Electoral College, just like everything else, when it goes contrary to what the left wants, they want to either ban it or impeach it. It's not working out so well for you right now. And the most beautiful part about this whole entire thing is this happened with a primarily left-leaning government. Even Helen Keller couldn't have seen that one coming. I certainly didn't. Look, I just have to be honest with you guys just real quick. Why is it always the fat, hideous ones with the blue hair and the tackle boxes and the face full of metal? Why are they screaming the most about abortions? You're the less likely to have to worry about any man wanting to put his meat popsicle inside of you and squirting his baby gravy in there. I mean, let's just be realistic about this. You are pretty much the most unfuckable people on the planet. It just makes sense to me. Whatever. You just gotta absolutely love the tolerant left that when the SCOTUS comes out with this ruling and judges like Clarence Thomas come out in favor of repealing it and send it back down to the states. I haven't heard or seen so many N-bombs drop since I listened to a Snoop Dogg song. And you got people like Keith Olbermann out there screaming and insulting every judge that voted in favor of it, except for Amy Coney Barrett, who he then said she's no better than a paralegal. Misogynistic much? So you can put all the male judges together and then you really focus on belittling the female judge. Once again, just like with Clarence Thomas, when you start calling him M-words on Twitter, your tolerance really shows through to what your party is truly about. I mean, it's been said multiple times, but I feel it does need to be repeated. We haven't seen Democrats this mad since we took away their slaves. Oh, that's gotta sting. Not as much as abortion, though. It's still murder. I always find it funny how liberals counter arguments are Republicans only care about children until they're born, so not really pro-life, they're just pro-birth. Well, then explain to me why is it that you leftist zealots are out there firebombing pro-life clinics that actually help women and expecting mothers to take care and foster and nurture those children, which donations are coming from those communities. So once again, your argument is invalid. You're just looking for more reasons to justify using a coat hanger on yourself. And, you know, you have all these leftists out there talking about like, hey, we got abortion rights taken away for us before we even got any gun control. Well, you know, I could be wrong on this one, but can anybody show me where in the Constitution it says anything about murdering a child? Because they did have abortions back then, but it wasn't framed in the Constitution. Weird. And speaking of the Constitution and national sovereignty, we have a federal government that isn't even doing their job, and we just had a truckload of illegal immigrants, like 42 or 45, somewhere around that number, found dead on the side of a road in an abandoned rig. What about that? So if it's truly about human lives mattering, well then you screamed for all kinds of justice and gun control with the Uvalde shooting. Well, where's your screams of outrage right now with all these people that were basically suffocated to death? All these illegal immigrants. Oh, you That's right, you don't care when it's minorities, it's only when it's voting season. When midterms are coming up, I mean, it's getting close. Oh, that's right, I forgot. The majority of the children in Uvalde were minority children. That's why you care so much. Forgot about that. But hey, you're pro-choice, so I don't understand why child death bothers you so much. You're already committing it. It's just at a different stage in its life. Oh, because that's right, it is life. Weird again. And you got Green Day singer Billy Joe, whatever his name is, out there screaming about how he's going to renounce his U.S. citizenship as if that's going to do anything to us. And yet, you've got these migrants that are dying trying to get in. You want to talk about the greatest example of privilege and freedom in this country is when you have stuck-up, spoiled celebrities like that saying how bad they think they've got it here. Meanwhile, people are dying, literally, to get into this country. We are a country of spoiled, entitled brats that truly, in some circumstances, do need their freedom stripped away because you've gotten too complacent and compliant and you're okay with it. So you certainly just absolutely have to love the fact that for the last 2 years of the whole Fauci-ouchie time, you had all these progressives on the left screaming that in many cases we should be forced to the gurney and strapped down and injected with the Fauci-ouchie, which, by the way, there's more athletes dropping dead right now and a lot of young people, but the news isn't reporting too heavily on that, so we're not going to watch that. But in the meantime, the very same people that were screaming for all of this stuff, saying force the vaccine, fire them, ruin their lives, make it to where parents can't put food on the table for their children, well, now when it comes to abortion, suddenly the my body, my choice comes back into play. That's funny. The one thing I will give you, leftists, you are consistently inconsistent in your hypocrisy. I will give you that. You just can't make up your minds. Probably why you want to get abortions in the first place. You know, another thing I don't really understand about Pride Month, and thank God this crap's almost over, because, you know, veterans and people, to include gay people that have died for this country, they only get one day. Yet for some reason, the alphabet mafia, well, they get an entire month. Explain that one to me. It doesn't make any sense. But at the same token, what does being homosexual have to do with walking up and down a street in one of your pride parades, butt naked in front of children for them to see you? That's just called being immoral. And that knows no sexuality. That's just you as a disgusting human being. So by all means, you types of people out there, keep this up, and you're going to start seeing the LGB making more and more enemies, and justifiably so. Fix your community and get rid of those immoral dogs. They're disgusting. So next we're going to go ahead and get our cowardly Republican yellow, and you got Mitch McConnell out there tapping John Cornyn and the rest of them to go out there and work with Republicans on getting more gun control across this country because apparently we have so much gun violence. No, that's actually not true. We have over 360 million guns in this country. If we had a gun violence problem, it would clearly be showing in the stats. But which weapon system is actually used the most in the majority of these school shootings? It's not the AR-15. It's handguns. But we're not going after that, because the social media and the MSM and the government want to go after the AR-15. Why is that? Because the AR-15 poses the biggest threat to a tyrannical government. It's not handguns. It's something that you can get out there with some reach and accuracy. A .223 round isn't going to do a lot of damage, but it will connect with you when it comes to accuracy. A handgun at point blank is way more damaging. But again, ignore the statistics and let's go with the selective outrage that the MSM and social media tell you to be angry about. It's not about the actual casualty numbers. It's about what can they slowly strip away from you that could pose the biggest threat should the government ever turn tyrannical, and this right here proves it. And the very same people that are out there making these open threats against the SCOTUS and these Republican senators and congressmen and women and stuff like that, well, what you should do is go on Twitter and you find these people and you report them to the local authorities. That way the red flag laws kick in and they can't have access to a firearm. Because why? Because they're a threat to somebody else. But you know that's not going to happen because the DOJ and the FBI are weaponized by the left. They're not actually constitutional-based organizations. We don't even need them. We shouldn't have them. This country got along very well without them, but instead we're going to use them to investigate the Trump administration, domestic terrorists that are actually parents at school boards saying they don't want CRT in the schools, and that's the way this country has gone. Now maybe some of you on the right are starting to understand why those of us that are constitutionalists are saying disband these three-letter agencies. We don't need them. All right, next we're going to throw in a little bit of this BLM Black, and before we get there, we haven't really heard a peep out of those organizations, have we? They've kind of went a little silent. Oh, that's right. The Pride alphabet mob came and took over. Black people got marginalized once again when the friggin' Rainbow Mafia came in and said, we're here, we're queer, you guys can go wait over there. The other thing I never understood is, why is it that it seems like the government at every opportunity wants to, when it comes to guns, put people on a registration list, whether it be background checks or firearm purchases? It's like every single opportunity they get, They just want to put people on lists. Why? I don't know why. Oh, look, there's a fly over there. Do you see it? It's right there. Weird. It's a big fly. So next we're going to take this little BLM Black and we're going to make a nice clean line right down the middle between the red and the yellow. We're going to draw a nice even line. It's almost like putting a line in the sand. Sort of like that singer Pink who comes out and says that if you're pro-life, you should just stop listening to her music. Pink, I hate to tell you this. You haven't been relevant since like the early 2000s. The only people that listen to your music are pregnant teenage trailer trash types. Sorry to break that to you, but it's the truth. Yeah. So now that we're all finished with the BLM Black, we're done with this beautiful piece of artwork. I bet you're asking yourself, hey, John Ross, what about the SCOTUS Aquamarine Green? Well, we don't need that according to the left. So let's just go ahead and take that, throw it away. Because after all, when we have a checks and balances system and you remove one of the three branches, well, now you don't have checks and balances anymore. You're gonna have anarchy, which the left, you better be careful. That's not what you want. Because it's not you that has all the guns. You have the pink hats and dildos. I hate to break it to you, but I really don't. Good luck. All right, so let's go ahead and take some of our pocketed white privilege. Here we go. Oh, looky there. She's back at it again. I got old Mr. Ed. Oh, I misgendered her. Sorry. Mrs. Ed Horseface. Sitting there screaming that we should overturn the Roe v. Wade by impeaching the Supreme Court justices that voted in favor of it. Well, isn't that the very definition of what democracy is supposed to be for? But if you leftists don't get your way, well then you want to force the system. You're the exact same reason her and her ilk, like James Brown or Maxine Waters and Beetlejuice, Lori Lightfoot, are the exact same reasons why we have the Second Amendment. Because if you got your way, this would be a fascist government and a tyrannical government. Thank God you don't. If you enjoyed this episode, tap the little share button down below. You can purchase this painting at allamericansavageshow.com and make sure to check out our podcast, All American Savage Show. Really appreciate your love and support. Leave some comments down below. I'm probably still not going to read them, but hey, it helps the algorithm. Or drop some eggplant energy. You know what I'm talking about.